Hi everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Welcome back to the channel, part 13 now, 13 unlucky for some, of this Seeking build. And in this video we're going to concentrate on getting the rotors painted. So I've masked up the tail rotor. I'll explain what I've done there in a second. And I'm getting ready to mask up the tips of the main rotor. So what we're going to do first of all, we're going to get that one out of the way. And get that over there out of the way. So I'm going to explain to you what I've done here. Right, so if you remember, we knew that this was approximately 4mm. What we're trying to do here is achieve this red and white tip on the tail plane, on the tail rotor. So they give you decals for it. I don't want to use them. I'm going to do it in paint. So I've already painted it white, left it a couple of days to dry so the paint's good and hard. Then you can see this narrow strip of tape here. I've cut that on my Infini cutting mat, which you'll see in a minute. And I've cut that at 1.2mm wide and then lined the upper edge up with the tip of the blade, wrapped it around, joined it up so it's nice and parallel, and then we're just going to give it a little pinch just to make sure we don't get any bleed. If we do get any bleed, we'll have to go around with a brush or something, or paint, or try and brush it in or blow it in. And then what I've done is put a piece of 6mm tape over the end just to cover up the end of the blade so that it stays white on the tip. We don't want red paint getting on there. Then what I've done is got a piece of 1.5mm masking tape, because the red band is 1.5mm wide. Wrap that round on each one. Then got this piece of 10mm masking tape, butted that up against the 1.5 and put that round on each one, again squeezing this back edge to make sure it's good and tight. And then remove the 1.5 so you expose a 1.5mm gap. Yes, it's long-winded, but it's the best way to get everything sort of consistent-ish. It's going to be good. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty consistent. The other way you could do it is measure up from, say, this point here up to there and cut yourself some tape and then put the 1.5mm tape on, and that way you're guaranteed to get everything exactly the same. What I've done, I've come along with a rule and I've just checked from the base of the blade, or the base of the angle, the base of that angle there up to there is just under 18mm, just under 18mm, and just checking them all to be about the same. Okay, so there we go. So it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. As long as it's good enough, it's going to be great. So now what we need to do is make sure that the masking tape is nice and tight on the trailing edges and paint the red. So I'm going to go away and I'm going to blow in some red, and then while that's drying we can go on and cut the tape for the tips of the main rotor. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so here we go. I must be honest, I am sick and tired of masking. I have just made 3 parts of the One Man Army masking videos, and yeah, all I seem to do is mask and clean the airbrush lately. So we've got our red painted. It's just XF7 with a bit of Mr. Colour leveling thinners. So we're just going to test our flow, which is fine. So we're just going to blow this in gently, staying at 90 degrees to the masking tape so we don't have any risk of blowing under the tape if there's any gaps, and if we keep it dry we won't get any bleed. So as you can see, just building it up slowly. Right, so now I'm going to change my angle so we come in and get the leading edge as well as the top. No, it's always spraying 90 degrees to the tape. And then we can turn it over and do the same again. Leading edge, sorry, that's trailing edge. Right, and then we can come in here, leading edge. And then over the top, nice and straight. Whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, so get some more paint on this side. You can see the red's now starting to get filled in rather than being that dusty, pinky sort of shade. We're just going to check all our edges are done. The last thing you want is to have a white. You don't want any white bits showing through. We don't like white bits, do we, guys? So there we go. So that's the red done. So we can leave that now to dry, and we can put this back in the paint pot, and I like doing this because it makes people go, oh, what are you doing? What are you actually doing? There we go. So get the airbrush cleaned up, and then I'll come back and we'll look at making those masks for the tips. Alright, so looking at this plan, they don't give any dimension. They normally, like with their Spitfire and that, they give a dimension for how wide things should be, but they haven't with this one. So I reckon, looking at that, if we look at that and we compare that, I reckon that is about 4mm wide. It's not 5, is it? It's about 4mm wide from the very tip. So what I'm going to do is make some tape 4mm wide, and then what we can do is wrap it round, make sure the edge is parallel with the tip there. So the first thing we need to do is make some tape that's 4mm wide, and we're not after precision, it just needs to be roughly 4mm wide. This, if you haven't seen one, is an Infinity Easy Cutting Mat Type A, and it's absolutely brilliant for making yourself masking strips. So what I'm going to do, I've put a piece of 10mm tape down here, so I'm just going to cut down one side to get a straight datum, and you can see this one is getting a bit worn out and damaged. I need to get a new one really. But what happens is if you start using blunt blades, you can actually cause damage to the grooves, which I've found to my detriment. So I don't tend to use blunt blades with it now on longer cuts like that one. They're okay if you're just doing a little short cut. So I want 4mm wide. So this is 1mm. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just come down there and cut a band 4mm wide. There we go. And then we can perhaps get another layer. 1, 2, 3. No, I'm not going to get another one out of it because we messed up on the first one. So that side there is now scrap. I'm not going to use it. You could leave it on there, save it for a rainy day. But I find that the glue tends to get all stuck onto the mat if you leave it on there too long. So we know that these blades are roughly 10mm wide. So I am going to make the tape 25mm long. So we got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, so again that piece there is no good. So what we're going to do is take this one off of here, get under the edge, and then lift that off of there. So now we've got a piece of tape 25mm long by 4mm wide. And what we're going to do, we're going to put it on here and try and keep it square, but we want the end, we want this edge of the tape where my finger's pointing now to be flush with the very outside edge of the rotor blade. So there we go. Okay, so that's there. And then to check it's square, pull the tape round and it should line up when you pull it back. So that is probably just slightly off. So I'm going to pull this up here and then pull it over a bit, and what we want it to do is on the back edge we want it to line up like that. Okay, so you've got one piece of tape there 4mm wide, and then I'm just going to take a piece of 6mm I've got laid out on the bench, and I'm just going to put that over there and then roll it over like so. Need to be careful we don't break anything here. So there we go. So now we have a 4mm wide band masked ready to go. So I'm going to carry on and do the other 3 and then I'll be back. Okay, so that's that all masked up. You can also see I've used an ASK invoice. See, I do get invoices, I do buy stuff from them, and I've used that as a piece of masking paper so I don't put tape onto the yellow paint directly because it's going to be on there a little while. So what I've done here, you can see on these blades we have these little pieces here that come out and hold the blade. Well, the blade's got to be painted and this piece here is a different colour. So what I've done is masked up to there, up to the edge, and what I'm going to do is brush paint these bits in because masking them is going to be fairly difficult. So we'll do that, we'll brush paint them and then we'll give it a wash and everything, and all look hunky-dory, because that's apparently navy blue. I'm going to have to check my references. Airfix are telling us to paint that navy blue, I'm not sure. So here we have our tail rotor and the paint is nice and dry. So we should be able to pull these off the end with ease. There we go. Just give them a tug and off they'll come. So we can see we've got a nice clean sharp line between our red and white there. Come on. Off you come. There we go. And then one more. Oh, come on. Right. So now you can see we've got that there. We'll get rid of these bits here. And now we need to move on to removing the other bit of tape. So this won't be so easy. Hold the blade, don't hold the centre of the rotor, you'll snap the blade off. So we'll see if we can pull this. What I may have to do is come along with a knife and just slice the tape without going up to the white. Because we don't want to cut the white away and expose grey plastic, because then we'll have to paint the white again. Might be able to now rip that off of there. Yes. So holding the blade, not the hub. Just rip that off of there. Okay. And now we should be able to, come away, go on. We should be able to get our tweezers under here again, staying down below the white so we don't scratch it. And pull that away. There we go. As you can see, we've got a lovely white tip with a nice sharp red band around it. All very nicely done. Much better than using a decal, whatever you want to call it. Just do one more. Okay, so there we go. Now what we need to do is we've got a 1.2, 1.3 millimeter white band here. We've got a 1.5 millimeter white band there, a red band, sorry. Now we need a 1.2, 1.3 millimeter white band here, and then all this down here will be black. So again, I've got my Infini cutting mat. I'm going to get rid of these bits of tape. I've got my Infini cutting mat, and I've got up here some pieces already cut to 1.2, 1.3 millimeter wide. So I'm just going to lift up the corners, and then we can come in with a pair of tweezers, take the tape, and then what we're going to do is lay the tape on here and butt it up to the edge of the red. Okay, just visually, and then wrap this around and join them up parallel like so, and give it a pinch. There we go. So now we've got that white band which is covered. Now we need, once again, a bit of 6mm tape. I'm just going to take one bit off. Okay, and I'm going to put this on here like so, so it's covering half of that piece I've just put on, but not butting up to it. And there we go, that's that done. And then if you want to, you can put this down and just cut away some of the excess so you don't have sticky bits sticking out. So what we've done there is we've covered up the red and the white. We've used the 1.3 to give us the white piece that's going to be 1.3 wide, and now we just use the 6mm just to cover everything else up, and then we can spray the whole thing black, and then we'll look at what colour the centre's got to be and go from there. We'll probably brush paint the centre. So I've got to do that another 5 times, and then I'll come back and we're going to get everything painted black. Okay, so ready to go with the black. This is XF85 rubber black mixed with Mr. Colour Leveling Thinners. If you've watched part 12, you'll know that I've had some issues with these joints where the plastic have met, and I don't want to use anything too hot, so I'm just going to spray this on lightly, and on here, on these tips, I'm going to spray away from the masking tape so we don't actually get a build up, we don't get an edge. As you can see here, going in, just getting some paint down initially. 18 psi, about 50-50 mix. As I say, I don't want a hot mix, I don't want a wet mix that's going to start attacking the plastic again like we had in part 12. I'm just going to give this hub a coat of black. Okay, so we can go around again. Just get these blades painted. As you can see, how I always airbrush, building up slowly, not trying to colour it all in at once. And then obviously coming in here, making sure we get the, just check my flow, making sure we get the trailing edges of everything done. We don't want any white bits showing through. And then again, leading edges. And then going over, you come in here and just paint the other side, and then I'm going to get this done, spray the main rotors, and then I will come back and show you how it all looks, and we'll get it all unmasked. So I will see you in a minute. There we go, all painted up. So I think I've got more hairs in these rotor blades than I've got on my head, which isn't difficult. If there's more than 2 on here, then that's it. But yeah, I'm going to give these a rub down with some very fine paper, a fine sponge, and then I think I'll have to paint them again because they are, as I say, they're very fluffy. There we are. So that's that all done. The tail rotor is here. And that's all looking lovely. So before the paint goes completely dry, we will have a go at removing these tips. In fact, I'm going to leave them on for now because I'm going to touch the paint and leave finger marks in it because it's not hard. But because it's got a nice sort of textured finish to it, that XF85. It's very nice indeed. I'm going to give all this a clear coat once it's done because we'll have steps in the paint where we've masked. Very, very small, but just a very quick flash of a semi-gloss clear or a semi-matte clear or something, just to sort of level everything out and make it all tough, so if we touch the blades, the tips, it doesn't chip back to grey plastic or something. For some reason this blade keeps wanting to tip over on an angle. It doesn't want to sit vertically up. So there we go. So let's have a quick look with our paper bound blade. So we can see that she's really starting to look the part now. The black and the grey, I mean that's basically how it's going to look from the top, other than the red round here and the red round the front. It's, we're really looking, we're really starting to get like a Sea King now. I'm really enjoying this. So this is, I've sort of come to a bit of a, my mojo's suffering a little bit, to be honest, and I'm sort of hitting brick walls, but seeing this coming together I think is going to get me going again. I just got to keep sticking at it and get it done. It's a lovely, lovely kit. I would recommend this to anyone other than the absolute beginner. I would recommend this to anyone. If you've got a couple of kits under your belt, you'll manage this no problem. It really is lovely, and I've tried to show you all the little pitfalls and all the little bits and pieces, like doing these windows and that. Was it one there? It was one there, wasn't there? One there and one there. You can see my riveting's a little bit lighter than the other riveting, but that'll look alright when it's had a coat of paint on it. And was that red there? No, it's not. The red starts here, that joint, so that'll be grey, so that'll be alright. Get a wash on there. It's all going to be covered in soot anyway. So, right, what's going to be next? So then here we are. Next day, all unmasked, all nice and dry. Doesn't that look lovely, eh? So much better than the decals. Can anybody see what I've done wrong? Yep. I've got the red and the white the wrong way. Red and the white the wrong way round. Duh. So I've got it wrong and Airfix got it right. Or did they? I've just been looking for reference photos and I'm trying to ascertain, as you know, I'm trying to ascertain, did she have this type of air director or did she have this type of air filter? And I have actually found now on airhistory.net, I found on airhistory.net you go in, you put the registration in. So I put in XV666 and there are pictures of her in this scheme, the latest scheme and the blue scheme. And one of the pictures in this scheme is from 1995, which is what this is supposed to be. And sure enough, she has that air deflector on there. Sure enough, she has grey window frames. So this is wrong, that is right for this period. Okay, all these antennae are still white. I can't find a picture of this side. What I'm trying to ascertain, if you look here, they've got this little antenna sticking out the side in white, but here it's in red, in grey. So I can only assume it's supposed to be grey, because the other antenna are grey. So I think that's probably incorrect. Maybe it should have been coloured in grey. It's a bit like that there, it should have been coloured in red, but it isn't. In fact, I'm just going to check my photo now. And yes, it should be red, even though the framing should be grey. So that's going to be a little unfortunate, because I've got to paint the frame in, and the best way to do it is going to be do the red first, because obviously it's going to be easier to mask the outside than the inside. So that's what we're going to have to do. I also think this window is tinted, so I'm going to have to tint that window as well. So going forward from there, I don't really know what to do. I've just noticed as well on here. Oh, okay, there is a decal for that, is there? There's some white stripes on the front of that. We'll have a look in a minute. But yeah, as you can see, they're telling us to use these decals on the tail rotor. I think of me words to get out. And as you can see, I've used the decals. I've measured the size of them here. But looking at the real thing, I'll put a photograph up now. It's nothing like that. They're much wider. So we are going to have to start again. So I'm going to grab a 1000 grit sponge and I'm going to sand the ends of these down just to remove any steps. But yeah, so I'm a silly Billy. I got it wrong. When I looked at the picture, I'm glad actually I found the picture, because I wouldn't have noticed otherwise. When I looked at the picture to find out if this was correct and the window frames and everything, I happened to notice that the tail rotor, the actual banding looks a lot wider than it does on my model. So looked again and noticed I'd completely messed up. So there we go. So I do make mistakes, as you all know. I make a lot of mistakes, but when I make mistakes I show you how to put them right, because you might make the same mistakes. I doubt it, because I doubt if any of you are as stupid as me. Anyway, so there we go. So I'm sanding these down to get rid of any steps. So that's that done. So now what I need to do is get this masked off and get a white base down, and it's going to be quite a struggle. In fact, I might even go a bit more. I might even grab a coarser stick or a flat stick and get rid of this red completely, because covering red, especially with white, is a complete and utter nightmare. So I think we'll get rid of all that, and then I'm going to mask these up, and then I'll come back and show you how it looks. There we go, there's the white done. I'm not going to bore you with going through all this again. You've seen how I do it once. All I'm going to do with this, I've cut some tape. I think it's 12mm long, 12mm wide, and I'm going to put that on from this corner edge back here. So it's going to be 12 meters up to there, and then I'll put a band of tape, which will be red, then a band of tape there here, which are 3mm wide, or about 2.5mm wide. I'll put a band of tape 2.5, band of tape 2.5, and then I'll remove that one and remove the 12 and do the red, and then we'll mask the whole thing and paint the black. I know it's a bit of a long way going about it, but I want to make sure that it's square, because with those little narrow bands, it's fine if they're sort of slightly off, it won't notice. When they're big and wide, if they're sort of like this or like that, it will notice. So when I use one of these, I can show you what I can do is, what I can do with this is lay this on. I don't want to do this properly because the paint's not properly dry, but I can lay this on here so that it's lining up with that edge that I just talked about, and I can look from the other side and make sure it's square. Okay, so that gives me my demarcation then. So what I'll do is add then a piece of the 3mm, or 2.5 should I say, just like so. Okay, so that's there, that's in position there. I'm not going to do the other one because it's not dry yet, but then I'll put another piece of that on, wrap it around, and then take both of these off, spray the red, and then mask it all up again and spray the black. So there we go. I'll come back and show you when it's done. And for those of you that are interested, get off. For those of you that are interested, I've just looked, and as I say, on that site, why does my computer keep throwing up a bloody screen? It's called airhistory.net. As I say, you go in there and you can put in XV666 and you will see images of it, of her in the latest livery, this one, and the blue. There's also a picture of XV666. Apparently it's got XV666 written on it, but instead of having 23, I think it has 21, is it? Let's have a look. Yeah, 21. So very, very strange. So anyway, but it still has that picture was taken in 2006, and it does have the air filter on it instead of the air director, and it has full red window framing. So if you want to do a later version of 666, then you'll have the red framing, but you'll have this type of air filter, and it's still in the grey, but it still has this wider band. I think Airfix got this wrong, because certainly every picture I'm looking at now, they've got the wider band. So there we are, and as I say, it's about 8.5 millimeters scaling it up. So I've got like 2.8 millimeters, I think, times 3. If I look on here with my calipers, what is it? It's 8. I've got like 8.5, 8.46. So you know, it doesn't need to be precise, does it? But you know, it's a lot bigger than that. So, of course, the other thing I've done wrong, I didn't measure that, did I? I measured the decal. Really stupid, Nigel. On the decal, what Airfix give you is actually, yeah, 4 millimeters. Look, so it's half. It's half what it should be. So bear that in mind. Right, let's press on. There we go. I've done the white, so we do the white, I've masked off, done the red, so you can see underneath there we've got the red and the white. So just a case of giving it some LP65, it is LP65, isn't it? Well, yeah, rubber black, LP65 rubber black, lovely colour this is. Just going to dust this on, nothing too heavy, just to cover the red up, build it up in layers. You guys don't need to be told how to paint, you know how to paint. There we go. I'm going to come in from the sides now, make sure we get the trailing and leading edges. And then turn it over and do the same. And I've forgotten again, my advice to you if you're doing this would be to do this side first, because if it does pop off the stick, at least you haven't got wet paint on this side to land on the cloth and be ruined. Make sure we get those leading edges, we've got red paint on the leading edges. There we are. Just quickly go over the front again just to make sure. As you can see, some of that red is bleeding through. Red can be a nightmare to cover, even with a grey-black. And I've used rubber black because I don't like to use jet black for finishing on models. It's okay for primers and stuff, or for bits of cockpit and stuff like that, but as actual, you know, like rotor blades and stuff like that, I don't like to use it. There we go. And I think what I might do, because I've given those blades a little sand off, I can go in there. There you go, there's the new style rotor blades for the Hercules. Where did Hercules come from? Sea King. I'm going to get down my rotor blades here. Oh, actually, I've actually done them again. What am I thinking about? I've forgotten. I've done them again. So they're all done and ready to go as well, with our single yellow blade there. So I'll get in now and paint the hub and everything of the main rotor, and then do these bits here in like a metallic grey. I'll use the Vallejo steel for that, I expect, because it brushes beautifully. So there we are. Right, this thing is really coming together now. So what we're going to do next, this is the trouble, I don't know what to do next. I never know what to pick up. And there we go, guys. She is all done. And I think you'll agree, not only is it more accurate, but I think it's a lot prettier than that as well. So here we go. So that's those done. Right. So we've got that unmasked. We've got our main rotor head here sprayed and unmasked, so that can go there. So I think now we can start looking at our Sea King like a nearly completed model. So as I said earlier, I've got these antenna painted underneath in the white, so they've got to be masked off. And I think what we can concentrate on now is getting the main fuselage part, come off, get the main fuselage part painted in grey, and then we can mask that off and get that rest of it painted in red. Won't she look lovely? So let's have a look. Maybe there's some greeblies we can put on first. Right, so I've got the rotor heads masked up. I've actually been looking for this colour because in the call-outs they call for this rotor head to be 77, which is matte navy blue. Well, I've done a bit of cross-referencing and it looks like this is the colour H54 navy blue. Now there's nothing called out for the tail rotor, so I've had a little search and there's one actually on for sale on eBay. It looks very new. It's in its box and everything, and you can see that it's the same colour. What's going on here I can't tell because it doesn't have the rotor blades fitted, but on the main rotor head you have, where's a pointy stick, the whole thing is blue, even up to the edges of these blocks here. But then when you get around the corner of these blocks it becomes like a silver colour. So like I said, I'm going to brush paint those with Mr. Hobby, with the Vallejo, but for now I'm going to paint these. I'm just going to dust this on. I'm just going to grab a dirty cloth here and check the flow. This is that paint mixed about 50-50 with levelling thinners. So just going to very lightly put this on. I don't want too much. And I really don't know why they're calling for matte, because in the pictures I've seen it looks very, very glossy. There we go. Now you can see why I primed it black first, so it doesn't matter if any bits show through, but that's looking pretty good. So we can put that up there. And then the main rotor head, you can just blow this in just lightly. We don't need to be putting on 3 million gallons of paint. Just give it a gentle coating of the navy blue. Lovely jubbly. There we go, that's that done. So bit of a wash, bit of dry brush, and I think there's actually some colour call-outs in the instructions, isn't there, for certain parts of the rotor head. Let's have a look. I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's some silver and some black or something. Yeah. So it's calling out for that's the folded head. Not that it should make any difference. Yes, it's calling out for bellows to be painted matte black. So that's all good. We'll do all that. They're asking for this to be 125. Okay, and those buffers on there should be black. So 125 was dark grey, and then these arms going down should be 56, which is like a graphite grey, and then this has got to be 165, which is the same colour as the main body of the fuselage. So it's calling for that there to be like a dark grey colour. I'm not going to worry about that because the difference in colour is nothing. But I will go in and detail paint those bellows in there have got to be black, and then these vertical links here have got to be silver. So we can brush paint all that. We could do all that at the same time as we do the detail painting on the actual mounts. So I'm going to clean the airbrush out and then probably get this detail painting done or something, or get something done, and then we'll come back and have a look at what I've done. Alright, so we're ready to get some paint down, and you can see what I've done here now. One of the issues with using sponge when you fill in holes is the edge is always like a rough edge, and you can get the little bits of the foam stuck in. So what I've done here is lined the hole with Tamiya tape. I want to squeeze the foam down and get it in there. He says it's easier said than done, because it just wants to keep sliding in, look. But we will get it in there, and that way we won't get the fluffy edge, because the tape keeps the foam away. There we go. And just gently push the foam in just to fill that hole, and there we go. So that's that one filled in, a little bit more in there. We've got a nice hard edge. I'm just going to pull this out a bit because it looks like it's going to pop in. There we go. So now we'll get a nice clean edge around when we spray, but we won't get any paint inside. So foam is your best friend when you're doing painting. And then the same down here. Now you can see down here this tape has pulled away because we've got that step inside. So I'm not really too worried about that at the moment with the grey, but when we do the red we'll have to make sure it's in. But it's good practice to get into when you do it, when you're using masking right before you paint, literally like 10 seconds before you put the paint on. It's good to have a look at the tape, push all the edges down, make sure it's all down and good. There we go. So that's in there. Tape's all down. That's good. I think what I am going to do is just trim away that bit there, 'cause it's sticking out a lot. So when we spray, we'll make sure we get right into there and get it in there good, because the red actually comes to a line just behind the door, I believe. So there we go. Right. So now we're going to get the grey done. I've got these bits ready. So what we're going to do is paint between here and here, and then that tail section there is all going to be grey. This is all going to be grey. I may do this dome a slightly different colour just to add a bit of interest. I'm going to have to be careful where I hold it, because I've just done that. I've just pushed that in with my fingers. That just wants to slide in because it's now against the tape, which is always so slippery for it. But underneath I've masked off those antennas. You can see I've masked off the tail wheel. These lights are all masked off here. Everything's good. So there's a piece that's going to go on there, but it's just going to get broken off, so I'm tempted to come along and glue everything afterwards. In fact, I think I will spray that piece. It's here somewhere. Where is it? It's on the sprue still. I must have seen it on the sprue. Yeah, there it is there. So what I'm going to do is get this part off and get it cleaned up, because then we can get that and spray that and glue it on later. So we're nearly done, guys. So I'm going to get some painting done. I'm going to get these put away. These will go on just before the red. I'm going to get some painting done and then I'll come back. So I think we're going to call that a day for this part. And then when we come back, I will have got the grey down and I'll show you masking the red, and we'll spray the red. And we're pretty much there then. So I'll see you for part 14. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this little bit and you've seen me do a cock up with the rotors, the tail rotors. Where's my skinny stick? Here it is. So just clean this part up here. So yeah, I will see you all for part 14, and stay safe, keep modelling. Any questions, pop them down below, and if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe, and if you've liked this video, please hit the thumbs up, and if you haven't liked this video, please hit the thumbs down. So I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.